All right, y'all, welcome to the show. Hope everybody out there is having an awesome day. Happy Thanksgiving Eve to you all. We will have a show tomorrow for Thanksgiving as well, so definitely tune in for that. I got a lot of stuff to get to today, man. So in just a second, Democratic senators are revolting against Chuck Schumer and his Jello-Spine weakness. I love that story, so we'll dive into that. We also have a bunch of MAGA politicians threatening mass resignation because apparently they're sick of being Trump's doormat. So a lot to say about that one, too. Later on, we have a Republican politician accidentally saying the quiet part loud when it comes to this Venezuelan war and attempt at regime change. That's a glorious story because I love it when they accidentally tell the truth. So we'll dive into that. And we also have a report that Trump is allegedly on the brink of firing the freak loser, Kash Patel. So we love to see that. So we have all that and more. You guys know the drill. Everybody, please do me a big favor and subscribe to the channel. You can also support the show on Patreon. That helps out a lot. Remember, this is real independent media. I've never talked to an advertiser or done an ad read, and I'm very proud of that. So you guys support the show from the ground up. You can also tip with that thanks button on YouTube. You can support Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack and sign up there. And, of course, you can go subscribe to Corin's World on YouTube, where we do live Kyle and Corin episodes every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You don't want to miss that. We have a lot of fun doing those. We just did a 3-hour and 30-minute show the other day where we ranked the Thanksgiving foods. So definitely go check that out if you haven't, and definitely come hang out with us next week. Like I said, it's an absolute blast. So before we get into the official stories, let me give you some quick breaking news stuff that just came out about 5 minutes before I came on air here. At least I saw it 5 minutes before we came on air here. Take a look at this. There's this special election currently happening in Tennessee, and the Democratic candidate is a DSA member. Now remember, this is Tennessee, like I said, super deep red, Trump land through and through. But in this special election, a new poll just dropped. The DSA candidate is basically statistically tied with the Republican opponent. That is insane. So this is a Trump plus 12.7 district, but at this moment, Trump's approval in said district is -2 among likely voters. That's a big deal. The other incredible fact that's coming out of this, they're up 14 points. The Democratic Socialist candidate is up 14 points with the early votes. So again, that's a huge deal. So we have the Republicans at 48%, the Democrats at 46%. If you happen to be in this district, go fucking vote, man. Don't make me say it twice, because this would be a colossal upset. This is not only a shot across the bow like the elections we just had. I actually think this would be an even bigger deal. And the reason I say that is it's easy for the right to poo-poo the win of Zoran because they go, it's New York City. New York City's far left. Everybody knows that. It's okay to have the far left candidate win there because it is what it is. What are you going to do? But if you have a Democratic Socialist candidate win in deep red Tennessee, that just proves it's our time, baby. It's our time. So amazing story developing there. Got my eye on that, of course. I also got to show you this. Trump, you want to talk about losing a step. He didn't just lose one step. He lost 14 steps, bro. This is horrible. This is washed McWashington. This is like Celtic Shaq type washed. So Trump tweeted this. There's a new word for Trump Republican, which is almost everyone. Great policy is the key. It is T-Publican or T-Publican. So the first one is T, of course, T-E. The second one is T with just a T, and then it goes publican. What the fuck is this? I mean, this is like, bro, you got to be sleep deprived. You got to be like, something's got to be wrong. Something's got to be off. Because you really were sitting there and this was swirling around in your head and you decided to share it with the world. There's not a single Trump sycophant who can spin this into, I think it's good. I think it's all right. None of you believe that. None of you believe that. And none of you believe that. You're not fooling anybody, bro. You're not. T-Publican? T-Publican. There's nothing witty. There's nothing zingy or snappy. I mean, that is just like, wah, 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 wah. What is this? So anyway, bro is just, he's not doing well, man. Oh, I should also point out, I didn't pull this up for today's show, but you guys can go check it out if you want to. There was this big analysis that came out where they were like, basically tracking the Brandonification of Trump, and like he's starting his days later, he's ending his days earlier, he's falling asleep in public events all the time. Like, it's happening. It is happening. Age has 100% caught up with this guy. And like I said, there's actually like a quantitative analysis that now breaks that down and says in no uncertain terms that's what's going on. So, and it's, that's why you're getting stuff like this now. We're a long way from like low energy Jeb and little Marco, right? We're a long way. That was a long time ago, bro. We're talking a decade ago. So the dude is just, shit, it doesn't last forever. Father time always catches up, right? All right, so let me, let's get into the main event here. So the New York Times has this article. It's an incredible article. Chuck Schumer faces pushback from a fight club of Senate Democrats. A group of liberal senators is quietly challenging the minority leader over his approach to the midterms and President Trump in a sign of the party's deep frustration. So let's dive into some of this here. A group of influential liberal senators is directly challenging Senator Chuck Schumer's approach to the midterm elections and President Trump in another growing sign of growing frustration among Democrats toward the minority leader. The coalition of at least half a dozen senators who call themselves the Fight Club, little goofy, but I'll give it to you, is unhappy with how Mr. Schumer and his fellow senator from New York, Kirsten Gillibrand, the head of Senate Democrats' campaign arm, have chosen, recruited, and they argue favored candidates aligned with the establishment. That's undeniably exactly what they're doing. The mutinous mood of the senators, who include Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, Tina Smith of Minnesota, Chris Murphy of Connecticut, Bernie Sanders of Vermont, and Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, reflects the widespread doubts among the Democratic base that the party leaders in Congress have a strong vision and a winning strategy for returning to power. So let me just pause here to point out, they're 100% right in their concerns, because we had, for example, Graham Plattner, who was, who came out of the gates hot. He had massive grassroots fundraising. His poll numbers were skyrocketing. He was really like a rising star, and it appeared like a foregone conclusion that Homie was just going to, walk away with it swimmingly in Maine to be the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate. And then it was Chuck Schumer who directly intervened and tried to convince the governor, Mills, to run. Now, the only problem with that is she's 77 years old at a time when the gerontocracy is sort of a big issue, and she's boring as sin, right? Not only that, she's also not nearly as progressive on the policy issues as Plattner is at a time of like revolt and revolution and rebellion in the country. But this is what Chuck Schumer wants. Chuck Schumer wants milquetoast Democrats like him, diet MAGA Democrats like him, who are going to basically sign up to be doormats in the Senate. And so basically you had this group of Democratic senators watching this, and after a while, they just got fed up. They were just like, you know what? We got to do something to try to fight back against this. So they continue here. The effort also amounts to an extraordinary preemptive challenge to Mr. Schumer at the earliest stages of the 2026 midterm races. He has faced widespread Democratic criticism over his handling of battles against the White House this year and his refusal to endorse Zoran as the Democratic nominee for mayor of New York City. Mr. Mamdani ultimately won, you don't say. The goals and existence of the group, which have not been previously reported, were described by 9 people with direct knowledge of its deliberations. They spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe the private discussions. With views of the Democratic brand at record lows, the group argues that the party must embrace candidates willing to challenge entrenched corporate interests, fiercely oppose the Trump administration, and defy their own party's orthodoxy. Other senators who have participated in the group's actions have included Edward J. Markey of Massachusetts, Jeff Merkley of Oregon, Martin Heinrich of New Mexico. They are focused on contested primaries for open seats in Minnesota, Michigan, and Maine. The party's campaign arm, see, this is where it got incredibly nefarious. Schumer's influence became incredibly nefarious. Listen to this. They say the party's campaign arm, the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, has not made any formal endorsements in contested primaries. However, the senators are convinced that it is quietly signaling support for and pushing donors toward specific Senate candidates. Representative Angie Craig in Minnesota, Representative Haley Stevens in Michigan, and Governor Janet Mills in Maine. So in other words, what is going on here? In Michigan, they're giving a Haley Stevens. Haley Stevens is the establishment cuck when you have Abdul El Sayed who's running, who's a superstar, who could be the next Zoran in the Senate. And so all these examples are like totally uninspiring, centrist corporate goons, pro-Israel goons, and they're quietly, because they know they can't do it publicly because it would lead to a massive backlash, they're privately helping those candidates out. This is bullshit. This is thumb on the scale type nonsense. It's very similar to what we dealt with in 2016 when it was Hillary versus Bernie and the thumb was on the scale against Bernie and Bernie still fucking, roared to getting somewhere around 45% of the vote in the primary despite all the things that were biased against him. So finally you have people inside of the Senate going, nah, man, nah, we're not doing this again. You, at the very least, you got to fucking stay out. If you're not going to support the firebrand progressives, which is what we need in this moment, at the very least, your ass got to stay out. That's what they're saying here. The dispute exploded in a private meeting with Mr. Schumer and Ms. Gillibrand last month when the skeptical senators raised concerns about the campaign arm's electoral strategy. They were livid after the New York senators denied showing any preference in the 3 states, according to 3 people familiar with the conversation. The Fight Club senators generally lean left of their Democratic peers in Congress, but their differences are less over ideology and more about attitude and political combativeness. They worry that leadership is using a dated playbook and risks dampening the party's energy and desire for new kinds of candidates. Yeah, so let me pause here to point out, like all the senators who are part of this so-called Fight Club, it's not like all of them are great. Some of them are actually not that great, right? But the point here is, it's not just ideological, like progressive versus corporate centrist. It's also just fighter versus bitch. And so some of these centrists want to fight more, and they're like, what the fuck? We got to fight more. So that's the other thing to remember. This isn't just about ideology, although I would say part of it certainly is about ideology. Alex Nguyen, a spokesman for Mr. Schumer, disputed that notion. Quote, our North Star is winning the Senate majority in 2026, and any decision is made to achieve that goal, he said in a statement. Well, maybe that's the problem, is that Chuck Schumer doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. That he doesn't know what leads to winning politics in the year of our Lord 2025. While individual senators often endorse primary candidates, it is highly unusual for a group of sitting senators to collectively wade into contested races and back candidates who are not the preferred choice of the official party apparatus. So this is a big deal, guys. What's happening now is a big fucking deal. Because in the past, it's we'll stay out of it completely, or it's we'll endorse the establishment preferred pick. Now, you have some rogue senators who are going, no, I want the insurgent firebrand lefty. I want the person who doesn't take AIPAC money. I want the person who's going to stand up to the military-industrial complex. I want the person who's going to fight Trump relentlessly. That's a huge change. That's a huge change. But it showed just how much Trump broke our politics. And Schumer's trying to play by the old rules. And you have these Democrats who are more in tune going, well, what the fuck? No, we're not going to allow that. Now we got to support our hardliners. That's what we got to do. Quote, I can think of no historical example that would compare to this level of internal caucus fear and dissension, said Josh Orton, a former Senate aide and a Democratic strategist. Well, let me just pause to point out, they had it on the right. The Tea Party on the right in the House is a good example of this. He now leads a group pushing the party's lawmakers to oppose what he sees as Mr. Trump's assault on the legal system. Quote, to be essentially a guerrilla group of senators who are raising concerns not just about one bill or one decision, but questions of leadership's entire disposition toward politics in the Trump administration feels unique. In recent months, Democrats have increasingly broken ranks to criticize Mr. Schumer, with several House members making symbolic calls for his ouster as leader. The possibility of a primary challenge in 2028 is real. A recent Siena poll of New York State voters found his approval rating at its lowest in decades, with fewer than a third expressing a favorable view towards him. This is in his own state with his own voters, y'all. Much of the senator's effort remains in the exploratory stage at in-person meetings and on an active text thread. They are discussing the possibility of joint fundraising efforts, lending their considerable donor list on behalf of candidates, offering endorsements, and making campaign appearances. So this is a full-on mutiny. That's what we're looking at here. This is a full-on mutiny. And they go on to explain in this article, all of these senators looked at each other and said, you know what? We have power in numbers. So if one of us stands up to Schumer, if one of us stands up to Gillibrand, if one of us speaks up and goes, I don't like this or I don't like that, they have ways behind the scenes, being Democratic leadership, of getting back at us. They have ways of like making us pay a political price internally for telling the truth. But if all of us stay together and act as a block, almost working like a union would, well, then what are they going to do? They're going to punish all of us? They can't punish all of us, right? What happens when we get to fucking 30 of us are part of this group? What then? Right? Shit, even if you have just 5, 6, 7, it's a bigger deal. What, are you going to punish all of them? Every single one of them is going to come out and say, this motherfucker is gagging us. This motherfucker is not allowing us to tell the truth about his shitty fucking candidates. So Schumer's in a no-win position. He's facing a mutiny. He's facing a revolt, as he should, because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And his job is Trump's doormat. This is why we call him Diet MAGA or MAGA Light, because he's got no real fight in him. The other thing is he sold out to a lot of the same fucking interests. He sold out to AIPAC. He sold out to the military-industrial complex. He sold out to Wall Street. It's not a coincidence that you have Gillibrand and Schumer, leaders of the Democrats in the Senate. Wall Street is in New York. They have the connections to the big money interests, and so they often cuck themselves to the right because that's what Wall Street wants. And so now you have some Democrats stepping up and going, nope, not having it. We're done with this. We're not having it. And the other thing is, even if, Schumer wins out the battle and the money goes where he wants it to go and the support goes where he wants it to go, that's not a guaranteed dub anyway in this age, bro. Zoran taking out Cuomo was a colossal deal in that primary. He won it in the first round. That was a colossal deal. You don't think a similar thing's going to happen when it comes to Graham Plattner in Maine, for example? You don't think a similar thing could happen with Abdul El Sayed in Michigan? Like, you even had the Congressional Progressive Caucus endorse a left-leaning guy in a congressional race, but endorsed against Kat Abu Ghazaleh. Even that, bro, like, you guys could try all you want, but I think the wave is unstoppable. And here you have an example of at least some senators going, I sense the wave, I feel the wave, I know it's real, I am not going to try to stand in its way. If anything, I'm going to try to hop on board. And that's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful thing. Because at this point, you're either with us or you're against us. And, we're taking names. We are taking names. And some of these people know it, some of them get it, and the others are going to be left in the dustbin of history. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.